So I'm in the capital of Georgia, a country that I had not been to before. It was the only one in my book about living abroad that I had not visited. But now I'm here. I'm in the capital city with some cool architecture behind me, but there's also a lot of really old historical parts of the city. And this is one of the cheapest places to live in the world. Each year I do the update, and there's a few countries that pop in, a few that pop out. In general, things don't change that much, but I like to update it because of geopolitical situations, and sometimes we've got some currency exchange differences that need to be highlighted. So in this country of Georgia, you've got great wine, you've got skiing, you've got beautiful hiking in the countryside, and yes, you can live here quite cheap, definitely half price life compared to what you're spending now. A couple could probably get by here on $2,000 to $2,500 a month fairly easily. Single person, $1,500 or so. The prices have gone up and down a bit depending on what's happening with the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. That has tended to impact the rent prices here because you had Russians moving in who were trying to avoid the draft, and you had Ukrainians moving in trying to avoid the war. Basically, you spend somewhere between $400 and $700 a month, you can get a pretty decent apartment here. If you're spending over $1,000, it's going to be quite nice. And this is a place where you can eat really well, drink good wine, and have a good time. The club life here is supposed to be excellent. Yes, they speak their own language, have their own alphabet, so that can be tricky. But on the flip side, young people are definitely learning English in droves. And you can stay here for a year from one of 95 countries. It's not something just special for Brits or Americans. You can stay in Georgia a year. That makes Georgia the place you can stay the longest as just a tourist without having to get any kind of residency visa or digital nomad visa, so keep that in mind. Now, let's go into some of the other countries while we're in this section of the world. This is further east than eastern Turkey, the Asian part, but it is considered part of Europe, and at least half the country wants to be in the EU. The other half wants to be closer to Russia, so it's quite divided at the moment. But you'll see EU flags up everywhere around here. But since we're in this part of the world, let's talk about Europe. In general, the lower the average wages, the lower the cost of living in Europe. This can be skewed a little by tax levels, how many tourists are visiting, and other factors, but it's a good rule of thumb anyway. Europe overall is less expensive than the USA or Canada, especially when you look at rent and healthcare costs, not to mention a glass of wine with dinner. This is even true in places like Spain and France. But by the measure of wages, Bosnia-Herzegovina is the best bargain overall if you're looking at the cheapest places to live abroad in Europe. It's less than half the cost of Croatia next door. From taxi rides to rents to meals out, Bosnia continues to be an undiscovered bargain. There's plenty to see and do. If you pull up Sarajevo on Airbnb, you can find a monthly rental for anywhere between $500 and $1,000. It'll be less than that if you work out something locally in your search, which will be far cheaper. More popular but still relatively unknown is Albania, which is right above Greece. The beaches of Albania look a whole lot like the beaches of Greece, yet when we crossed the border from Corfu to Sarande on a ferry last year, the apartment and restaurant prices dropped in half. Americans can stay in Albania for a whole year on a tourist visa, so you can try it out for quite a while before you have to worry about residency. Even if you're in a hurry and just use Airbnb, you can find a nice 2-bedroom apartment in Tirana for under $800 a month, a penthouse place with a view. It would be quite easy for a couple to live comfortably in Albania for under $2,000 a month, even in the largest city, while living it up. Nearby Bulgaria is another terrific value in Europe. I did another video on the cost of living in Bulgaria, specifically focusing on Bansko, and I've spent a lot of time with nomads that are living in that area when I was there for the Nomad Fest. I'm a big fan of the country since I like to spend a lot of time in nature in the mountains when possible. I've even been skiing there, but Bulgaria has some Black Sea beaches as well. This is a country where you can still find a nice apartment for less than $500 a month in most cities, and you can buy a condo or house for under $50,000. Unfortunately for nomads, Bulgaria became part of the Schengen zone in 2024, so it's still one of the cheapest places to live abroad, but it's a lot easier to live there for Europeans. They can actually lower their taxes too while they're at it. than it is for people from the USA or Canada. However, it can be done with the right amount of patience and help. Also in the Schengen zone, but using their own currency, is Hungary. As with Turkey, this country scares me a bit because it's been a one-party dictatorship for quite a while, an oppressive one at that, and the other branches of government have gotten neutered. You don't really notice that if you're just there as a visitor, but I'd be wary of buying property. And so if you're nomadic, it's far less risky to spend some time like I did last year in Hungary, just renting an apartment and enjoying Budapest as a city. I did a recent video on costs in Budapest, including our grocery hauls when we were staying there, so check that out at the Tim Leffel YouTube channel for details. Other places to consider that are in my book, A Better Life for Half the Price, are Romania, Montenegro, and Portugal, though that last one won't be in the next edition of my book. It's just gotten too popular and prices have gone up a lot. It's basically on par with Spain now. Not bad, but still quite a bit more than the countries I'm outlining here. Let's move on to the Americas. I usually put Mexico on these lists, not because it's the cheapest, but because it's the closest. It's got the best travel connections to the USA and Canada by far, more than any other country. And Europeans can get there fairly easily via Cancun or Mexico City. The exchange rate has gone from 20 to 16 back to 20 over the past few years, which is quite a yo-yo. As I write this, it's around 20 pesos to the dollar again, quite good, so prices are very reasonable. This is where I live myself, in the city of Guanajuato in the Highland interior, so I know it quite well. My electric bill is under $8 to give you an idea what expenses are like. Rents have gone up in some high demand areas like the best neighborhoods in Mexico City and the city of San Miguel de Allende down the road from me. But in other cities have actually dropped in dollar terms the last couple of years. Where I live, it's quite easy to find a nice apartment somewhere between $500 and $1,000 per month, less if you're willing to live like a local. Just be advised that the income requirement for foreigners is more than $4,000 per month. So Mexico is no longer a place to get legal if you're not a high earner or if you don't have a large amount in savings. You're better off coming in and out as a nomad on a tourist visa. You don't need anything close to that amount of money to live on, of course, and my wife and I have almost never spent more than $2,500 in a month if we're not traveling, even when our daughter lived with us and we were renting. Ecuador is, by most measures, the best bargain in the Americas for people who are looking to drastically lower their expenses when they move. You can rent an apartment easily for $400 to $800 in a nice area. Spending more than $1,000 means you're going to be in a luxury high-rise in a place like Cuenca or Quito. Restaurant prices can be low as a few dollars, transportation's cheap, and domestic help is quite affordable. If you're in one of the cities, healthcare is professional and reasonably priced in Ecuador. It's a dollar economy, so no currency fluctuations, and the minimum monthly income requirement to get residency has gone up a few times, but it's still only $1,400, which is about a third of what you need in Mexico by comparison. That's $1,400 a month. If you want to buy property, this is one of the best values in the world. With an investment of less than $50,000, you can qualify for an investor visa for residency. If you're a retiree in Ecuador, you get lots of extra perks too, including discounts on flights and bus tickets. The cost of living in Colombia varies greatly according to how your own currency is doing against the Colombian peso. Over the past 5 years or so, that currency has moved up and down a few times, but has generally been favorable to all those foreigners heading to Medellin or Cartagena to live. There are cheaper places to live than Colombia in Latin America, but many who live there say it can't be beat on a whole lot of factors that are hard to put on paper. It's a fun and vibrant company that puts fun first, and it feels like a land of opportunity for those running their own business or investing in real estate. According to Numbeo, the average rent in Medellin for a 3-bedroom apartment in the city center is $789, and most people I've talked to who live there are getting by on less than $2,000 a month easily if they're on a budget. Or they're still spending what they did in the USA and living a life of luxury in a penthouse apartment with an awesome view, ordering in food every day. There are plenty of other bargains in Latin America to consider, and I did a dedicated video on all the choices a few years back. That includes Guatemala, Honduras, Bolivia, Peru, and sometimes Argentina. This year you could add Brazil to the mix as well because of a dive in the value of their currency. It's probably cheaper to live in Brazil at the moment than it is in Argentina. Let's move on to Asia. Thailand has been showing up on these lists for decades, and it's still a great value. I put out a video on travel prices in Thailand after my last visit there, so go check that out for more details at the end of this video if you're interested. What changed lately is that Thailand launched a digital nomad visa, and this is one that nomads are actually applying for and receiving when they go for it. In theory, it's good for 5 years, and you can stay for 6 months at a time before you have to leave. A huge improvement over the visa run situation in the past. It's called the Destination Thailand Visa, DTV. I probably don't need to tell you why people come to Thailand, but go there and you'll enjoy terrific food, great beaches, great cities, and loads of fun. They do events and parties well in that country. Malaysia doesn't get as much attention, and they've continually shot themselves in the foot with their long-term visa offerings. The good side of that, though, is this is one of the best values in the world for rental apartments. If you spend more than $600 a month in Kuala Lumpur or Penang, you'll probably have an awesome view, lots of extra space in your apartment for an office, and a building with a pool and 24/7 security. Most of the population speaks English, and you've got Malay, Indian, and Chinese food to choose from before you even get to the international options. This is a great place to come live for 2 or 3 months and then move on. Vietnam is still one of the world's great bargains for renting an apartment and eating out, plus it's cheap now to fly within the country and the region. Lots of improvements are on the way for the train system too. You've got several cities to choose from where you'll be able to mingle with other foreigners if you'd like, including Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang, and Hanoi. It's so inexpensive to eat out here that some expats don't even have a real kitchen in their apartment. Most of them have domestic help as well because it's so affordable to have a housekeeper, nanny, or a driver on call. Next up is India, which is not for everyone, especially those with respiratory conditions and those who like to maintain their personal space. Still one of the cheapest places to travel or live in the world, though, if you can put up with all the hassles. Rents can be pricey in Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore, but in most areas it's easy to find a nice apartment for under $500 per month. India also has one of the most attractive long-term multi-entry visas for those who want to become residents. As with the others mentioned, you can get someone to clean your house for next to nothing, so you might as well do it. There are plenty of bargain places to live in Asia, but some are tougher than others for sticking around. If you're a nomad not worried about getting residency, then head to Indonesia, Laos, or Cambodia, or pop into Nepal for months at a time. Few expats move to Africa unless it's for a job or for love, or to be a volunteer, but the few that do tend to end up in one of 3 places that are a good value. The first is Morocco, which has a whole lot going for it. It's easily connected to Spain, and it's more developed than most other options on the continent. You have several cities with foreigners in them to choose from, but be advised that English is third on the list of common languages after Arabic and French. Numbeo says that living in Marrakesh will cost you half what it does in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is a place with a similar climate and some historic architecture. Rents are 79% less. Egypt is an even better value than usual. Due to Israel's unrelenting attacks on Gaza and the general unrest this has sparked in the region, tourism arrivals to Egypt have fallen off a cliff. Add the government downfall in Syria to the list, and the neighbors are left shouting in the wind to come visit. It takes a special kind of fortitude to move to a place like this, but if you're willing, it's a renter's market in Egypt, and you could probably even get a monthly rate at a 4-star hotel for less than what you're spending where you live now. That would come complete with daily maid service and breakfast. In Numbeo's latest list, Egypt is the cheapest country in the world that's also a tourist attraction, so that puts it in perspective. South Africa is a popular tourist destination that's sometimes expensive, sometimes a bargain. It just really depends on the exchange rate. This year it's on the bargain end of the scale, so take advantage of that if this destination has been high on your list. Right now, if you look on Airbnb, you can get a monthly studio rental apartment in Cape Town for under $800, a larger one for under $1,000. And again, that's Airbnb. You could certainly find something cheaper if you look around locally. So there you have it, the cheapest places to live in the world. And unlike some of the videos you find on YouTube, this one's from a guy who actually knows what he's talking about. The author of A Better Life for Half the Price. That's the first edition. Here's the second edition. You can find it wherever books are sold. And I've been to every country that you saw in this video. Most of those photos and videos were mine. Some of the countries I've been to several times. I've also interviewed people that lived in all of them if I haven't lived there myself. I've lived here in Mexico since 2018 full-time, many years before that. So anyway, hope you liked what you found. You can follow me on the Cheapest Destinations blog. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you'll find a lot more from me there on different countries with more specific information. See you on the road.